I'm here today to talk about what the music industry is really selling and why it's dying. There's this consensus among the music community that it's getting harder than ever to make and sell originally made music. Conventional wisdom is pointing the finger at streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music for cutting the cash flow to us musicians. But the thing that I don't get is if people have access to these amazing music libraries, why is it that small music venues right now are struggling to stay open? And why is it that the audiences who do come to concerts are less engaged than ever? The amount of people I see on their phones when I'm on stage is crazy. And why is it that the audience's average age seems to be increasing? In other words, the younger generations are not coming out to support live music. So, I'm here. In the past couple of years, I have put my heart and soul into making a few original music projects. And in the process of trying to sell these things, I've learned some really cool things about the music industry. And I'm here today to tell you what the music industry actually sells. And it's far more than just music. And once we understand what that is, we'll have a clearer picture as to why the music industry is in trouble right now. So to understand why the music industry is the way it is today, we need to understand its origins. So in the early parts of the 20th century, we saw the invention of a few really important mass media devices, namely the television, the radio, and the record player. And so all of a sudden, we found these devices in the average middle-class home. And all of these devices required content. And where there is demand, there is opportunity to make money. The people who were in charge of making the content for these devices found themselves in a very unique position. For the first time ever, people who were making this content can influence the thoughts and thinking of the average person. Prior to this, society got our values from institutions like the church, school, or our parents. So now we have all of these new ideas pouring into our households, and this affected culture quite profoundly. Think of all the trends that happened over the past 100 years. So culture is just a set of accepted beliefs, values, patterns. It informs the way we think and the way that we act. I like to think of it as if our bodies and brains are computers, then culture is sort of like our operating system. And any group of people since the dawn of time has had some form of culture. As the needs of people have changed, culture too has evolved. Culture, like anything, is subject to competition. So if somebody's needs are not being met, then they're going to start acting in a different way. This is sort of the seeds of counterculture. Counterculture starts off with one person or a small group of people doing things differently, and if enough people join in that behavior, it has the potential to be a larger trend or a movement. And if it sticks around long enough or gains enough power, then one day it might form part of the mainstream culture. So this creates sort of a cool business opportunity. All of a sudden, if you have a group of people who share the same beliefs and values, then you have a really perfectly targeted, segmented target audience. And you can sell them products and services that cater to those beliefs and values. Well, a counterculture isn't just going to buy anything from anybody. They want to buy something from somebody they trust. So if you're an industry and you want to sell a product or service to that counterculture, one of the ways you do that is you find somebody or a group of people within the counterculture who perfectly represents that values or is a leader. And in the exchange of money or fame or power, you ask that person to endorse your product or service. It's the creation of an idol, I suppose. So let's look at a few different music genres that were countercultures that were really driven by the music community. In the mid-'80s, there was glam rock was kind of the predominant rock and roll genre. And it was characterized as being a kind of a fun genre, a lot of songs about cars and girls. It was a rather vain time. People really cared about their hair and their clothes. Lead singers all seemed to have these really powerful operatic vocal ranges. And every band needed an ace guitar player, somebody who could overplay the guitar and play the most notes That wasn't part of my rehearsed plan, but I'm glad I did that. A few years later, a counterculture emerged in opposition to glam rock's values. Grunge music, in contrast, was very serious. There's sort of this anti-fashion movement. It wasn't cool to really care what you look like or to spend a lot of money on your clothes. All of the lead singers had these rough, gritty vocals, and guitar players did not play million-note solos. They played slow, brooding, percussive guitar parts. John Bon Jovi and Kurt Cobain were the poster boys of their respective genres. And it's because they were the perfect embodiment. They had all of the values that represented the counterculture they grew out of. Industry knew this, and they used these guys to sell millions of records and millions of concert tickets. The interesting thing about Kurt Cobain is that he was aware of the commercialization of himself and his cultural values, and he was quite outspoken against it. Unfortunately for him, that only re-solidified his position as the idol because he so proudly held to his counterculture's values. I think it's actually kind of a sad thing. So, why do we buy music? I don't want to overlook the fact that the music industry does sell music, but there's reasons why some bands can travel the world and sell out venues wherever they go, and it's because they're doing something more than just playing music. The thing that the music industry sells is values. Human beings have a lot of needs. Two of the most important needs that we have is our need to self-identify, to understand thyself, and secondly, we have a need to belong. None of us want to be abandoned, and none of us want to be alone. So when you walk into a record store, and you walk to the pop section, or you walk to the country section, or you walk to the rap section, in a small way, you're going through an unconscious process of self-identification. You're identifying with the values of the genre that you like. Or when you put on a band's t-shirt, you're saying to the rest of the world, these are my values. Does anyone else out there feel the same way I do? Because I don't want to be alone. So with the music industry fulfilling these very important needs in our lives, why is it in so much trouble right now? Well, in the mid-2000s, social media came to prominence. And a lot of bands rushed to social media platforms for the opportunity to reach much larger audiences. And while a lot of bands did achieve that, the thing that they didn't realize is that they were giving away their values for free. Social media is a far more efficient way of meeting our needs of self-identification and belonging than the old music industry model ever could. For example, when you look through your photos, find one that you think represents you well, and then you write a few words about it and post it on Instagram, you have just gone through a pretty radical process of trying to figure out who you are. I've stopped looking at my Instagram newsfeed as the news and more at just my friends trying to figure out who they are. That's really all that's going on. And you look at a platform like Reddit, well, in less than a minute, you can sign up for their website, search over 1 million subreddits, which are micro-communities based on some interest, and you can begin interacting with people. You can do this all without spending any money. You can do this without leaving your house or putting on pants. And I think the most important thing is you can do this all without the fear of rejection. Doesn't matter if you're tall or short or rich or poor, you're not going to get turned away from a subreddit community, so long as you play by the rules. This is going to make me sound old-timey, but when I was a teenager and before social media was a thing, I actually had to leave the house and go be around other people if I wanted to belong with people. Kids today can belong without leaving their house. So all of a sudden, the need to buy concert tickets plummets. That's why I went to concerts, because I wanted to be around people. So coming to understand this stuff about the music industry selling values, I came to realize that I was doing a pretty terrible job on my social media of communicating what I stood for. Because if you don't communicate well what you stand for, then it's impossible for a fan to self-identify with you. And if you don't have fans, then you can't sell your stuff to them. So I decided to do an experiment, and about a month ago, I made an Instagram post where I just wrote down some of the values that I believe in, things like working hard and honesty, and found a picture to kind of match those values. And I threw it up, and I got 25% more likes and more engagement than any post I'd ever made before. And with the exception of me holding a guitar, it has nothing to do with my music. So while I'm kind of happy that I got this success and more engagement and all that, and wider reach, it kind of upset me a little bit because the thing that I really want people to check out is my art. I don't really want to have to brand or sell myself. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, a little bit like Kurt Cobain in that way, I guess. So what's next for the music industry? Is the music industry done? Well, no. Live music is going to stick around forever in some capacity. Record sales are going to stick around in some capacity forever. They're too cool to go away. But as social media reigns as our society's main cultural influencer, I think that there's new unmet needs emerging in our society. One of the things is that we lack human connection now. And I think that a lot of us are overstimulated. And overstimulation can be met by things like resting or playing with our friends. And so I think there's a great opportunity for us as a society to reposition how we use music. A couple of years ago, I started up a thing here in Regina called a Guitar Theory Jam. And once a month on Sunday afternoon, we get together for a couple of hours with the sole purpose of just playing music together and having fun. And without a doubt, every time after I leave a Guitar Theory Jam, I have this nice warm feeling inside. My needs for human connection and having fun and just resting and playing are met in spades, far better than can ever be met through social media. You know, it's funny to think about using music just to get together with friends and enjoy ourselves. I think that's one of the ways that music has been used since the beginning of time. And it's only when we found out ways to make money from music that we got off that path. And now that we can find fame on social media, I think music is even getting more distorted. Kids today, people of all ages today, spend their time with their instruments in front of their cameras on their computer and uploading it to YouTube. That's how we're using music these days. To me, that's just so weird. It makes me angry. So I'm at the end of my talk here, and I didn't exactly know how I was going to finish it. But the cool thing about writing something like this or making any art is that I feel like there's always some sort of personal epiphany in examining something. And this morning, I woke up and I was looking through my closet to figure out what I was going to wear today. And for the past 10 years, I've pretty much only worn black t-shirts or white t-shirts. I kind of don't really like making statements with my clothes. But I've noticed that unconsciously, I've started collecting t-shirts from venues that I've either performed at or that I've visited. And I was walking here today just thinking, like, why is it okay that why am I okay with broadcasting, a music venue on my shirt? And I think what it is that for me, a music venue represents a place where people get together and have fun through sharing music in real time. And that's something that I can stand behind. I can say for certain that the best times of my life have come from sharing music with my friends in real life. Learning how to play music has given me the power of the secret language to connect with people in ways that I cannot do with words. And so, playing music for the sake of playing music, well, I just hope that's the next big counterculture movement. Thank you, guys.